The internet has given us another day to exist. It's always exciting when that happens. It's always very exciting. Let's see here. Let's just make sure the YouTube is awake. The YouTube always takes its time. And I think we are good. I think we are perfect. Let me just make double sure. Taking its time today, which happens. Here we go. Yes, there it is. Yes. And we are cooking with gas. What's up, everybody? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Good. If you're in the future, how's it going? Did we make it another day? Are we all right? I hope you are staying safe. I hope you are staying well. I hope all of your dreams have come true. I hope you don't have any more dreams because they all came true. You're like, I crushed them all. Quarantine didn't get me down. All my dreams. Nailed them. Special thanks to everyone who makes this show possible. First of all, our friends over at ZT.com, ZHITEA.com. Their tea kind of rules, and you can get it in wholesale. And they got a lot of great black teas, oolongs, green teas. They supply the tea to this show. The raspberry pecan is one of my personal favorites. But check them out over at ZT.com, ZHITEA.com. Also, triageoil.com. That's triageoil.com. They make CBD pain oil that does wonders for your joints. It has done wonders for my neck. You guys know I was in a bad car accident in 2013. My neck will never be the same, but this oil has done wonders for it. So triageoil.com. Check them out. Also, maybe you're thinking, Ron, what about the CBD oil that I can ingest, that I can put in my beverage and enjoy? I got you covered. Rare Naturals, CBD.com. That's Rare Naturals with an S, CBD.com. Check them out. They're selling bottles of CBD oil. It's really good. I've been using it. It's perfect in your, I like to put it in my seltzer water. It's perfect after a workout or when you just want to relax or when you want to do some extensive reading. Really good CBD oil. You can put a drop under your tongue. You can put it in your drink. It's awesome. And if you go to their website, which again is rarenaturalscbd.com, you can use the promo code Lucy for 30% off at checkout. That's the promo code Lucy for 30% off at checkout, rarenaturalscbd.com. And last but certainly not least, the Civvy app, CIVVY app.com. It's an app that compartmentalizes civic information for you. It tells you what issues are pertinent to you based on a questionnaire you fill out about your views on the world. And it tells you which politicians you're most compatible with. Turns out I'm not that compatible with anyone. I have very low compatibility with everybody. If this was a dating app, I'd be screwed. But it's really interesting. And you can kind of, switch your answers around just to see what happens. And they compile independent news and media. So you can go to the independent news section. You'll even see some Get Your News On With Ron clips out there. Civvy app, CIVVY app.com. Pick that up. Without further ado, so I have some very special guests today. So you guys know that in Aurora, there was a violin vigil for Elijah McClain, who was murdered by police about a year ago. And police descended upon that vigil. We saw some of the footage yesterday where they just started brutalizing people there for literally no reason. These were people peacefully playing. It was a peaceful visual, and police just decided they were going to start messing with folks. And Riley Ann, who was just on this show last week, Riley Ann of the Cat Calls, she was there, and she referred me to some other folks who were also there. So my guest today, please welcome then to the show. Please welcome Joy Adams and Andy Reiner. So Andy is a violinist, and he's host of the River of Suck podcast. So check that out wherever you get podcasts, River of Suck podcast. And Joy Adams is a cellist, and she also plays a lot with Nathaniel Ratcliffe, and she is a doctor in music, and they were at the visual. Thank you guys so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Great to see you.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I'm so stoked to get your story. So let's start at the beginning. So this event happened over the weekend. Y'all went there. Were you guys involved in the planning of it, or how did you come to be involved?
I saw a post on social media, and it looked like a sweet, peaceful thing to be a part of. Elijah McClain was also a violinist who got some little reputation for bringing his violin to the animal shelter and playing for the cats. Yeah. We love cats.
No, I do too.
So we thought we'd show up at this event, and it's kind of a ways from our house. We live way up in the mountains in Colorado, and it was nearly a 2-hour drive to get down there. We brought some sound equipment. We were supposed to help the organizers with the sound system. We had extra microphones and things with us. We showed up somewhat early because we were going to help with the sound system. And
so we thought.
Yeah. So when we got there, a different protest that had occurred earlier in the day was just winding up. And there were still some people left over from that one. And there was kind of a tense little thing going on right at the front of the police station in Aurora by City Park. So we joined some other violinists who were already playing in the corner of that park. And all these people started sitting down on the ground. Some were holding candles. People were holding roses. People were crying. There were little kids. There were so many little kids. I can't believe it.
So I can see why the cops felt they were in danger. This scenario you're describing sounds very dangerous.
Super dangerous to have a bunch of people holding violins peacefully playing with a whole crowd of people around.
I'm shaking already, but so you guys are playing.
We figured, well, okay, it's a little prior to 8:30. We'll start playing now because we couldn't find the event organizers, and it turns out they had been moved to the other side of the library building. So the violinists were effectively split up into multiple groups. There wasn't one super group. So we were playing Pachelbel's Canon, and if you know the piece, it's the traditional like wedding music. It's peaceful and calm and soothing. It's what you'd hear in a yoga studio. So we were playing that, and suddenly to our right, about 200 police in riot gear show up, and they just start attacking the crowd, like with batons, with pepper spray. They were firing tear gas into the crowd, which we saw, our friends saw, and the police department is now claiming that they did no such thing, which is a blatant lie.
It's on video.
It's on video. There's multiple videos.
Here we got a little bit of it right here. Here's some of the beginning. Can you guys see that?
Here we go.
So here's some of the footage.
God, look at that.
There they go. I mean, people are just. And here we'll go back to the beginning, and I'll leave the sound off so we can kind of talk over it. But so there's people. I mean, these people are kneeling. These cops are coming at them, but they weren't doing anything. I mean, some of them are verbally replying because you have cops with sticks and weapons coming at you, batons and weapons coming at you. I mean,
the most that people were doing were chanting. And I'm sorry, but if you work for law enforcement and you can't handle somebody chanting at you, you shouldn't be working that job. I'm an educator. I teach at a college. In the past, I've taught at Denver School of the Arts. Kids are rowdy. Even college students are rowdy. And I'm expected to keep my cool around children who behave worse than these protesters did. It was crazy. Everybody was peaceful. The whole display of force at the hands of the police was entirely unnecessary and unprovoked.
Yeah, I mean, well, you even see some of the footage at the beginning, which we showed some of that on the show yesterday. The cops just approached the event, and let me get your guys' take on this. It's like the cops just approached the event, and it was like they were marching like stormtroopers, just ready to crack people's heads. And all you guys were doing was just playing really pretty music.
Violins. Yes, us, and I keep coming back to the small children, but there were small children there. My students were there. There were these two little boys near us who couldn't have been more than 10 years old playing their violins. And here come the police pepper spraying them. It was like a moment out of Hunger Games. That's what I kept thinking. It was like when the peacekeepers come and descend on the crowds.
So they're all lined up in their crazy gear, and there was just a moment, and it was during the music, because they'd shut down Interstate 225 earlier, and the organizers of the earlier protests had really asked people to be peaceful the whole time. So people had a very, very much across the board a peaceful attitude. And it just happened that, as the sun was going down, the police suddenly decided and announced through their megaphones, this is now an unlawful protest. So, like, at what point who makes the call that all of a sudden this thing that has been happening peacefully for hours all day and avoiding this kind of violent confrontation, who makes the call that all of a sudden it's unlawful? And because now this is suddenly unlawful, less than a second later, we're going to run forward and beat you all up. So I don't know. It's like there's nothing changed. They just lost someone decided, and I've seen it before. I lived in Boston and there was kind of riot-esque things after winning sports events. And I just saw this strategy before. So I'm like, man, I have seen this play out before. When police get like this and they're wearing all this gear and they're in a line, what's going to happen is they're going to start marching and trying to move people because they've decided now is the moment. You can no longer be here. But if you're talking about a bunch of peaceful protesters,
but you can move a crowd with a line of police officers in a non-lethal way.
Right.
You can do it without pepper spray. You can do it without hitting people with your batons. There are multiple ways to move a crowd without using unnecessary force like that. It was appalling.
And beyond that, like, why people have the right to assemble. People have the right to hold a peaceful visual. What business did they have even being there? And like you said, Andy, we see these scenarios play out every single time, and it's just another for instance of, hey, a bunch of them got ready to go. They got ready for prom, so they're gonna dance. That's what this comes down to. They got the riot gear on. They're gonna frickin' dance, whether you like it or not. Even if you're just playing music, having a peaceful visual. So when the cops descended and just started pepper spraying, using tear gas, what happened then? What was the disperse like from your guys' perspective?
It happened really fast. The crowd moved backwards. We were still, it's a kind of a big rectangular piece of park, and we were far to one side of it. So we stayed put, and the crowd kind of came and gathered around the musicians, and they were begging us to keep playing, to hold the line. So we kept playing, and it kind of looked like we were cut off from everything. So we just kept playing. The crowd came around us. The rest of the crowd on the rest of the lawn moved backwards into a parking lot, and we eventually made our way there as well.
So it's kind of like you got to live that scene from Titanic a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of cool.
I mean, yeah. In the moment, it was terrifying,
Sure.
And we're like a bunch of average white people. We don't live with this, so it was shocking. And it was traumatizing. And it was horrible to realize that so many of our neighbors live with this every day. I don't know how anyone lives with this kind of terror and trauma, and just knowing that the people who are supposed to protect and serve you will kill you at a moment's notice for no reason. That's just astounding. We need massive change.
Well, we need,
and it shouldn't take a bunch of white people screaming about it to make it happen. We should have believed our Black friends sooner. But here we are.
And just to set this fountain scene up a little more, there was a bunch of, I don't know, I think by the time the police line started marching forward, there were probably 25 string players. I would say half and half Black and white.
Yeah.
Just sharing a musical moment together. And it was turning into something really special, I think.
Yeah.
At the moment that it all kind of went the wrong way. And so our first reaction was to keep playing, and then it was like, whoa, something's going on, and people started trailing off, and this crying people like, keep playing. And it's like, oh my God, it's really important that we play right now. We can't move. We can't retreat. We have to keep playing music, and playing the juxtaposition between a beautiful moment between all these musicians and listeners and people who had come to be peaceful together and to remember the life of Elijah McClain. All of a sudden, each note we played had a different meaning.
Sure.
Because it wasn't something that we're remembering from a year ago. It was, this is still a problem. This is happening right now. So everything changed in that moment.
What was crazy was you just heard our story of what happened where we were. On the other side of the library was a massive group of string players with Ashanti, a Grammy award-winning violinist, and a couple of other really famous people who had flown in. And they were leading a peaceful, beautiful vigil on the other side of the library. Meanwhile, on our side, like all hell was breaking loose. So it was almost like they had been pushed over. My interpretation is they had been pushed over there. That was the face of like peace and security of the vigil. Meanwhile, the police were just wreaking havoc on all of these peaceful people on the other side of the building. It was just nuts. It was like the police were out to prove the point
of the protesters.
Of the protest.
Right.
Yeah.
As they do time and time again.
And it's just so, when you hear the cliches that people throw out to kind of justify the state of law enforcement, which I think is, and I say it on this show all the time, we are past the point of quote unquote reform. We're past that. It's too little, too late. We need to completely reinvent what it means to have law and order in our lives, because this is just a systemic disease that is rooted in 400 years of racism and oppression and has been infiltrated by the worst of humankind for decades now, because it's a systemic disease. And, whenever you hear the cliches like, well, it's just a couple bad apples, how can you even entertain that notion when, listening to your guys' story and realizing what happened in Aurora, the moment you guys described of people playing music, coming together, holding candles, getting emotional, because this was a beautiful being who played music for cats to soothe them, who was killed for no reason whatsoever. How is it just a few bad apples when there was this mob of cops who saw that same moment that everyone else saw and said, we need to destroy this?
I know. There's a whole bunch of different ways to look at it. And in the days since we posted about our experience, we've been getting all kinds of backlash and arguing with all kinds of people.
What kinds of backlash?
Just people who discredit everything that we said, who insist that there must have been some violence on the part of the protesters for anything like this to happen, who claim that, anything that the police department said, the police immediately said, we never used tear gas, we didn't use too much excessive force. They were really quick to cover their butts.
They've publicly denied everything.
And people believe that. That's what's astounding, is we're programmed, I think, to believe everything that the police say as good and true, and that is false. They are blatantly lying about what they did. They know that they can.
They turned comments off of their Twitter posts denying that they used any kind of weapons like this.
You can't file a complaint with them right now. They've cut all their lines of communication. I mean, it's crazy. If whoever's listening to us right now wants an action item, if you can email our governor, email the Mayor Mike Kaufman of Aurora, get on the phones, just harass these people, harass them as much as they've harassed others.
We need the accountability, and they're not providing any outlets. So got to make our own, it seems like.
Well, I mean, from Aurora to Los Angeles to Miami to DC to New York to Pittsburgh and to Louisville, and these are just the ones I can think of quickly off the top of my head.
We have a buddy of ours from a music camp, Kevin Haggins.
He's in Columbus, Ohio.
And just like 2 or 3 days ago, He was standing, there's a point of view video from him. He was standing on the street. The police were approaching protesters with pepper spray. He turned around and started moving away because the police were coming at him with pepper spray. Hadn't done anything wrong, and they just attacked him and arrested him for nothing. They beat him up. The guy's like covered in bruises and scars. They're demanding that he provide medical proof of what happened to him, and I think he's out of insurance, so there's a GoFundMe set up for him to help pay for those medical fees.
Speaking of another issue.
Oh yeah, right. Like this is he's a violin player. He's a super sweet guy. He would never incite anything from the cops, and in the video, he's honestly just running away from the scene of violence, and they just come out of nowhere and like throw him on the ground viciously. It's horrible. It's just absolutely horrible. So I don't like the few bad apples is crazy.
Right.
I would love to see a single good cop stand up to what's going on. When we were at the Vigil on Saturday night, by the time we had moved to the parking lot, there was a violinist who was up on a truck bed playing. It was pretty cool. Everybody was singing. But Elijah McClain's sister was there, and we saw her standing like, oh God, I can't say it without getting emotional. She was crying and crying and crying, standing 10 feet away from the cops. And these guys didn't break. They wouldn't even look at her. Like, how can you stand there and not show a shred of compassion? What kind of animal do you have to be? It's horrible.
This is the same police department that killed her brother, Elijah, and those people are still on the police force getting paid with no repercussions. So we're talking about their direct co-workers.
Also,
colleagues.
This is the same. Do you remember a few years back when a guy shot up a movie theater in Aurora?
Yeah.
James Holmes. Holmes. This same police department politely escorted James Holmes away from the scene of the crime where he had murdered 12 people without harming a hair on his head. And if they can do that to some like white terrorist, the hypocrisy is just I'm speechless. This
It's
whole
stunning.
thing is just astounding.
It is beyond stunning. They can also, if you shoot up a black church in South Carolina, they'll take you for Burger King afterwards. They'll apprehend you. They'll apprehend you without hurting you, and then they'll take you out to get Burger King before they bring you in. But if you're, playing violin and you enjoy singing while you walk, they'll kill you. They'll kill you.
Yeah.
Yep. It's just the same story everywhere else too. Getting back to the protests, everything's peaceful until the cops show up. And how, I mean, it blows my mind that people are still arguing with you. It's like, first of all, were you there? Because you guys were there. Were these people refuting what you say? Were they there? And second of all, how many firsthand accounts do you need to hear from your neighbors and your fellow citizens before you realize, okay, who's instigating the violence? The cops. They're the ones causing this. They're the problem. This system needs overhauled because it's broken far beyond repair. And it's been that way for years. I mean, I think it was Will Smith who said, look, racism in law enforcement is nothing new. It's just being caught on film.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly it. And that is something that we can all continue to do. The moment you see a cop interacting with a black person, you can pull your phone out and stand there peacefully to the side and make sure every second of that encounter gets recorded.
Yeah. I mean,
I can't tolerate this anymore. None of us can tolerate it.
We really can't. And I mean, that's a really powerful testament you guys just gave. I got a little teary-eyed myself, and I think that I think that you guys definitely gave some bittersweet joy to Elijah McClain's sister, and that's
I want justice for that family.
Yeah,
more than anything.
Yeah.
Same, McLean.
Yeah, absolutely. So when did it all kind of end? Like when was the conclusion? Like when did you guys kind of get out of Aurora? Like, did you stay later? Like, did the police eventually leave? Like how did the event come to a close?
Yeah, so we all hung out in that parking lot right up against this police line. At that point, it looked like there were 300 of them. There were so many. And we played music and we sang and continued to play music and sing and just hang out. And there were a couple of weird little scuffles. Like there was a girl near us who had been filming the cops, and the police apparently tried to bat her phone down. And then when she reached for it, they tried to arrest her. And immediately 30 people showed up with their cameras to document whatever was going to happen. So the police backed down. But eventually they turned tail and went back into the police building, which was kind of a big triumph because we were watching them load more pepper spray up, or they were ready to like keep going.
They had like things that
they
looked
had
like
big,
cannons.
big canisters,
like Starship Troopers,
yeah,
style, like futuristic weapons that you don't even want to know what they do. We have no idea.
The tension was insane, but everybody was trying to be, light and cheerful and play music, and just we were determined to hold fast to the idea of a peaceful vigil, which is what we all had showed up to do in the beginning. So we stayed until, what time was that? Like 11, past 11?
I think
it was about
they
11.
retreated right about 10:30, 11.
Yeah, and then we continued to stay there a little longer because we had run into some friends of ours from the music community who we haven't seen in months. It was kind of a weird reunion for everybody to come together, masks on.
And some of them had been on the other side of the library, and no one was aware of how much was going on at the same time. So one of the weird things is that I don't know if anyone truly has the full story of the scale of this event, because simultaneously there was more than one vigil because so many people came to celebrate the life of Elijah McClain. So
yeah.
There was a peaceful thing on the other side, and there were no 300 cops there. But, how can you say it's just a few bad apples when there's 300 of them standing together taking orders over headphones from one person? It's the same thing with Nazis, okay? Following orders. Well, could you be a good person at heart and still listen when that thing comes in over the headphones? Because they were acting they were not individual cops. It was like a force. They wanted to show how much force they had.
They were like machines.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was very... Well, the video I showed yesterday was that video where it started, and the girl taking the video, at least based on how close her voice was, I'm assuming that was the person taking the video, and it was a girl taking this video, and she just starts going, no, please, we're not doing it, no, please, and you just hear people pleading with them, like we're not hurting anybody, you don't have to be here, and it was just, they were like robots. They just marched and started just hitting everything in their path. There was a guy in a tie-dyed T-shirt just standing there. I mean, it was unreal. And it's like, these are serve and protect is, wow, that has been thrown overboard years ago, if it was ever a thing at any point in time, which it likely wasn't. This is not an institution there to serve and protect anything other than what the ruling class wants. And it's just, I mean, it's unreal. And, on this show, I try to document as many firsthand accounts as I can, to try to just shine a light on things. But on a slightly different note to kind of close out here, and I think I saw Nathaniel Ratliff at Bonnaroo a few years back, so I might have seen you perform before, Joy.
Oh, I wasn't playing with him a few years. I just started playing with him recently because he produced a new album called "And It's Still All Right," and it is somber. It's all about, it's dedicated to his producer who has just passed away.
Oh, wow.
And it's all kind of like cut down, really intimate music. So he hired a string quartet to play with him. And I got to be in that.
Oh, cool.
Nathaniel's a great guy. And he and his foundation, the Marigold Foundation, are really dedicated to social and economic justice. So they've got a good hand in all of these events right now.
I'll have to look into that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw him at Bonnaroo. I'm sure you may have been to a Bonnaroo before. Yeah, those are a bit of a blur.
Yeah,
like they kind of.
That means you didn't do right.
It's a good time. It's a good time, but those are a bit of a blur, and that was for me, that was actually good practice for the current mask situation we find ourselves in, because being a ginger at a place like Bonnaroo, that is my regular outfit. I would do like one of those fishing masks with like
full cover.
Oh yeah, with like sunglasses and a hat, and it was I was very incognito. I would have could have run into my family; they wouldn't have known who I was. But so guys, thank you so much. First of all, thank you so much for doing that. Most importantly, thank you guys so much for playing that. It's awesome that you did that. Is there anything in parting you want the public to know, that you want to share about this event? Before we close here?
I think as white people, it's really hard to understand what it's like for Black people in this country. I experienced privilege at this event. My violin case was actually behind the police line towards the end, and I was able to go and eventually talk to a supervisor to get it back. And I have a photo of this police supervisor bringing back my violin case and 2 microphone stands. And I have no doubt that if I was a person of color, it would have not gone so smoothly. I can't believe I have that stuff back, but I have to believe that it was because of my privilege.
Yeah. This was supposed to be a moment of healing for the community. I mean, we believe in the magical powers of music. We've dedicated our whole lives to it. And it should have been a really sweet, beautiful, peaceful thing. That's what we showed up to do. And the police ruined it. And if they want to move forward, they're going to have to stop working the way that they're working, because time and again, they're proving the reason for these protests. We've got to have change. Please get on the phone. Every individual person has power in this situation. The individuals have power. You have to do something.
If you don't vote, you're wrong.
Please vote, for the love of God.
Well, and you have a lot of power locally. I mean, you have a lot of power locally to really, rally your city council, to really rally your mayor, and to vote for better members, to vote for a better mayor if need be. And I think that's one of the things that I'm getting inspired by, with all these protests, where it's like, look, we still have an incredibly long way to go, and that's putting it gently. But the one glimmer of hope here is that the concessions that have happened so far, throughout the country, as a result of these protests, are more concessions than we've had in decades. I mean, decades of this stuff going on. And, in 2014, Ferguson, all these other, for instances, nothing changed. And now things are starting to change, and we've gotten further than we've gotten in decades. We still have light years and light years to go, but, these protests, they are effective. These vigils, they are effective. We do have people power. So, and thank you guys so much for everything you guys do. So check out Andy's podcast. What's your podcast about?
So it's called River of Suck, because you have to suck at something before you can be good at it. It's just, I talk to musicians and scientists and athletes and haunted house owners about fear, emotions, and overcoming situations and staying positive when
do you ever
things
have
are really hard.
comedians? Do you ever have comedians, man? I'm in.
Not yet.
There you go.
There you go,
Not yet,
man.
yeah.
Your first-
I'm down. I'll be the first comic. I'll be the first comic. I can
Cool.
promise you I
Very
sucked
cool.
for a while. I could show you old videos of my first. I got some old footage. Some of my friends have footage from when I first started that if they ever needed to blackmail me, they got it. So I can promise you. Well,
Nice.
so
Good talk.
check out the river. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Joy. Thank you, Andy.
Thanks,
check
Rob.
out the River of Suck podcast, wherever you get podcasts. And thank you guys for all that you do. And thank you so much for sharing your story today.
Thank you for elevating this story. The more this gets out there, the more likely we are to experience some change in the
Cheers.
Aurora Police Department.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you, Robin.
Thanks, Ron.
Peace. All right. So that was powerful. And that was a firsthand account from Joy Adams and Andy Reiner. Please do check out Andy's podcast, The River of Suck. And Rob, thank you very much for the Super Chat contribution. These cops are psychopaths. Psychopaths respond violently to weakness. Showing vulnerability will provoke them to attack you. They are not normal people, says Rob. Thank you very much for that, Rob. Thank you for your thoughts. Yeah, it's past reform. We got to start over. We got to start over. And by the way, I wrote a bill about what I would do in my community. In case if anyone's curious to read it, it's over on Rockfin and on my Substack. But guys, thank you so much for being part of this. This has been Get Your News On with Ron. We'll be back throughout the week like we always are. I might be doing another short video tomorrow. I did one of those. I did a short video, and a lot of you guys liked it, and you said you want more of that type of stuff, which I'm happy to oblige. So I might do another short pre-recorded video, but we'll be back throughout the week. So keep an eye out. And in the meantime, you know the drill. Lucy says meow. I say peace. Peace.